Forget for a moment thinking of time as a straight line. I mean, what if reality is actually a perfect circuit? A system where the way back home is literally built before the fall even happens. We're about to dive into this incredible cosmic model, one where every single failure is just a pre-planned step in a beautiful, self-correcting loop. And this single sentence? Well, you can think of it as the unified law of the entire system we're exploring. It's like the master key that unlocks everything else. It's telling us that safety nets aren't just an afterthought. No, they're woven right into the very fabric of reality from the get-go. All right, so our first stop on this journey is to go way back to the very beginning, or actually before the beginning. We're going to explore this really foundational idea that the path home was designed and switched on long before any journey or any trial was ever set in motion. Okay, so this is where we see something called pre-activation in action. Just take the prayer of Āsiyah, right? She's the wife of the pharaoh, trapped in the absolute heart of tyranny. But she doesn't ask for an escape. She asks for nearness to God. Now, in this model, her prayer isn't just a reaction to her suffering, it's an activation. It's like her love is so powerful, it literally bends the rules of cause and effect, opening up that return path before the crisis even hits its peak. Now, to really get how this whole circuit works, we need to understand its core mechanism, something called the caustic. You know when sunlight passes through a magnifying glass? That super-focused, intense point of light? That's a caustic. So in this model, a trial is a caustic. It's a moment of intense pressure that doesn't destroy truth, but instead, it bends and focuses it, revealing all these hidden qualities. It's how the system actually tests itself. And this slide lays out the system's first two fractures perfectly. So on the left, you've got the first caustic. You can think of it as a divine measurement. Corruption is foreseen right from the start, almost like an engineer measuring the resistance a circuit is going to face. But then on the right, the second caustic, that's different. This is where Iblis's pride, that statement, I am better, takes that same divine light and just bends it through the lens of ego. Pure measurement gets replaced by selfish assumption. And that right there is where the whole conflict really kicks off. So how do these initial fractures actually play out? Well, in this next part, we're going to see how they show up as these real-world trials of fire and stone. But we're also going to discover the cosmic anchors that were designed to keep the entire system from just collapsing in on itself. Let's just take the element of fire. In this model, it's a single medium, but with two totally different outcomes. For Iblis, it fuels his ego, right? It separates him from the divine. But for Ibrahim, that exact same fire gets reprogrammed. It's commanded to be cool and peaceful. The heat is still there, but the harm is just gone. It becomes a sanctuary, which proves that the nature of a trial really depends on its context and the divine command that's behind it. And then you have the return stone. So when Ibrahim goes and shatters all the idols, he leaves the biggest one intact. Now, the source material sees this not as some oversight, but as the installation of an exit point, a future anchor, way before it's even needed. And later on in the narrative, this is the very same stone that Musa will strike to release water. You see? The escape hatch is built into the foundation of the problem itself. So you might be wondering, what holds all these volatile elements, light, fire, water, in perfect balance? Well, according to this model, it's this verse, Ayat al-Kursi. It literally acts as the system's operating system. It's this unbreakable symmetry lock that governs life, death, and return. And it ensures that despite all the pressure and all the refraction, the circuit never actually breaks. Okay, so now we're getting to the most intense points in the whole circuit. These moments of what you could call maximum compression. But in this model, these moments don't lead to destruction, oh no. Instead, they trigger purification and the birth of something completely new. This cry from Maryam, this is presented as the ultimate point of ego collapse. At this moment of just absolute surrender and this wished-for erasure, she creates the perfect vacuum. And it's into that vacuum that a pure, uncorrupted life, the Word of God, can enter. The collapse isn't the end. It's the necessary condition for a miraculous birth to happen. And right away, the model shows us a different kind of collapse, one that the system actually refuses to allow. When human arrogance peaks and demands the destruction of Isa, or Jesus, the truth isn't destroyed. It's just relocated. The light gets converted into a state of pure knowledge and is raised up, perfectly demonstrating that core rule of the system: truth can never be erased. And this brings us to how Suleiman's authority was validated. It wasn't confirmed during his life, but only after his death, when his body finally falls. The key insight here is that the system validates truth through detachment. Real, true power is only proven when the ego is completely taken out of the equation. So this brings us to the ultimate exit strategy from this whole loop of trial and decay. And it's presented as a three-rung ladder. First, you have Yahya, or John the Baptist, who represents life being preserved in stillness. Then you have Isa, who represents knowledge ascending beyond any physical harm. And finally, there's Idris, who represents complete ascension, a final exit from the circuit without ever experiencing decay at all.
Now, this is where the model takes a really fascinating turn. It connects this entire spiritual narrative to concepts from, believe it or not, modern physics. It suggests that when truth passes through one of those caustic trials we talked about earlier, there are only two fundamental ways it can actually be preserved.
The source calls this quantum-safe transmission. So imagine you have a really fragile secret that you need to get past a heavily guarded wall. You basically have two options. You can either put it in an unbreakable box and physically push it through the wall, or you could have a perfect copy of it just instantly appear on the other side, bypassing the wall completely. One is about isolation, and the other is about perfect instant transmission. And this table maps it out perfectly. The first path is the tunnel. Yunus, or Jonah, being preserved inside the whale, that's the Qur'anic sign. The quantum parallel, it's literally quantum tunneling, where a particle passes through an energy barrier that it shouldn't be able to cross. The second path is the portal. Esau being raised without death is the sign, and the parallel is quantum teleportation, where a state is transferred instantly without crossing the space in between. Two totally distinct methods for preserving truth. It's amazing. So, it's time. Let's put all of the pieces together. We've seen the initial blueprint, the elemental trials, the collapses, the escape paths. In this final section, we're going to see how they all combine to form one grand, unified system, a kind of cosmic algorithm for purification. And here it is, the full correction cycle. It all kicks off with pressure, those caustic trials. This pressure allows for a measurement, and that measurement leads to a correction, which often happens through the collapse of a false idea, just like we saw with Maryam. After that collapse, the truth is validated. Then an epistemic seal is placed on it. Think of how Isa's story was sealed by his ascension, confirming that truth can't be killed. What's pure is then preserved, and that leads to rebirth. And the entire cycle is designed to repeat, constantly stripping away falsehood to keep the whole system in perfect balance. And here we have the final synthesis. The elemental forces themselves, they're neutral. Fire, stone, water, they are all single mediums. The outcome, as the source tells us, depends entirely on our attachment. If you're attached to idols, to falsehood, you get fixed into the fire of trial. But if you're attached to the book, to divine knowledge, that very same fire becomes a passage. So we end with this question. After walking through this really intricate cosmic circuit, this system where mercy is pre-activated and every collapse is just a setup for rebirth, the model turns its lens right back on us. If this entire system is constantly working to strip away falsehood, what illusions, what attachments is it asking you to release?